Welcome to a short video summary of the Samsung UE55 KS8000 Ultra HD 4K TV. You can read the actual review via the link in the description or by clicking the info button at the top right of the screen. The KS8000 is Samsung's flagship flat panel TV for 2016. It retails for £1,599 and along with support for Ultra HD 4K, it also supports high dynamic range, specifically HDR 10, as well as wider colour gamuts, and it includes the latest version of Samsung's Tizen Smart TV platform. It's basically the same as the KS9000, but the difference obviously is the KS9000 is curved and the KS8000 is flat. So if you're looking for a flat high-end Samsung TV this year, this is the model for you. One important feature, as with all the Samsung TVs this year, it does not support 3D. So if 3D is important to you, then this is not going to be the TV for you. Otherwise though, it's an incredibly attractive TV, as you'd expect from Samsung. It has a lovely silver trim around the outer edge, very thin panel. There's a 1 centimeter wide black border around the screen, and it sits on an attractive chrome stand, although the stand can't be swiveled. It uses what Samsung are calling their 360-degree design, which means that the TV can look attractive from any angle, even from behind. So the rear panel itself has a sort of attractive groove design to it, and there's a removable panel behind which you'll find some basic connections. Now, behind that panel, there is a LAN port, a USB port, common interface slot, and also a connector for the One Connect box. That's because all of the other connections are actually separate from the TV itself and on what Samsung call their One Connect box. And we quite like this idea because not only does it mean that the connections can be separate from the TV and thus make wall mounting easier, but it also means that if there are changes to be made in the future in terms of HDMI connections, all Samsung need to do is actually swap out the box. Much easier than say changing the entire HDMI connections within the panel itself. So we think it's a really good idea, a very useful little feature that is still unique to Samsung at the moment at least. So you've got the One Connect box, and on that box itself you'll find 4 HDMI 2.0A inputs, 2 more USB ports, there's also optical digital output, and also you've got the tuners for both terrestrial and satellite TV. Now this year it comes with a new remote control, which has been redesigned from last year, so it's no longer a motion controller, but it is a very comfortable, very easy to hold remote, very easy to use with one hand, sits nicely in the hand, and everything you'll need in terms of controlling features are on the remote. I mean, it's simplified, but everything you'll need for day-to-day use is there and easy to access. And also it's a learning remote, so when the TV detects a new source, it sets it up and actually transfers the controls to the remote, so you can use it to control a multitude of devices, not just a TV. Very smart, very slick, very clever little feature from Samsung, and we like this remote. In terms of the smart TV platform itself, as I said earlier, it's a Tizen platform. It's been slightly revised this year, simplified in many respects. There's a launcher bar along the bottom, very similar to WebOS by LG, and you can go along and access different apps. You can also access sources, and you can access the menu system. And the menu system itself is simple, but easy to use and informative, and we actually really like it because there's not too much in the way of extraneous, unnecessary features. It gets straight to the point and makes setting up the TV pretty straightforward, and you can actually see a separate video showing you our recommended settings for this particular television. Now, we tested the KS8000 using our normal calibration equipment, and that's a Klein K10A colorimeter, a Meridio Fresco 6G pattern generator, and Calman 2016 software. I have to say, out of the box, we were a little bit disappointed with the performance of the KS8000. The majority of the Samsung TVs we've seen so far this year have all been very accurate out of the box, impressively so in fact, whereas the KS8000 sample that we had far too much blue in the grayscale and not enough red. This meant that whites were being skewed towards blue quite heavily, and there were some noticeable errors. There was definitely blue tinge to whites, for example. However, easy to fix with the calibration controls. There's a 2 and a 10-point white calibration control, so we're easy to able to remove that blue, bring up the red, get a nice even grayscale. Gamma was tracking close to our target of 2.4, so overall the performance was very good after calibration. We would have liked it to be more accurate before calibration because not everybody is going to get their TV calibrated. In terms of the colour tracking, that would have been very good had it not been for the errors in white, the pull towards blue in the grayscale. Once we'd removed that, we could see that the auto tracking actually was very accurate. Even before we used the CMS to actually calibrate the color gamut, it was already very accurate. And in fact, all we need to do are a few minor tweaks. So really, you could actually use the auto setting just as effectively, I think, on this TV as you could have used the custom setting, which is probably good for a lot of people. In terms of its HDR performance, this is a very bright TV, well over 1000 nits of peak brightness, and it's certified Ultra HD Premium by the UHD Alliance, which means it can accept a 10-bit signal, and it has at least 90% of DCI-P3, and in fact we can confirm that. It measured just under 70% of Rec 2020 as well. The tracking of the grayscale was pretty good, and the tracking of the PQ EOTF was fairly close. It rolled off about 70. Basically what Samsung are doing is they're rolling off sooner than some of the other manufacturers to give them a little bit more headroom so they can retain more detail in content that's mastered at higher than 1000 nits. Some stuff is mastered at 4000 nits. The colour tracking against Rec 2020 could have been better, but the colour tracking against DCI-P3 within Rec 2020 was actually quite good. So overall, it was a very good performance in terms of our testing. In terms of actual performance, starting off with the energy efficiency, it was a very energy efficient TV, as you'd expect from an LED LCD TV with edge lighting. So even in HDR mode, it wasn't using very much energy at all. In terms of its input lag, if you're a gamer, this is definitely one of the TVs you want to be looking at. 21 milliseconds of input lag, that is the lowest we've measured this year. And I think if you're a gamer, the Samsung TVs this year probably should be high up your list in terms of potential choices. In terms of performance, with standard dynamic range content, that's Rec 709 D65 based content, really impressive. Samsung have got an excellent local dimming system on their TVs. The algorithm is very good, and when employed, even in the low mode, you got deep blacks, good shadow detail, nice peak whites, good dynamic range with an SDR content, nice accurate colours, good motion handling, really nice picture. And with HDR content, again, a really good performer. Obviously, the edge lighting does mean you do get some bright edges and corners with some content, particularly when you've got black bars in on letterbox movies. So it's not perfect. I think a full array backlight is much more appropriate for HDR content, but considering the price point, you're getting great HDR performance and fantastic SDR performance as well. And our only real complaint with the TV would be the out-of-the-box accuracy on the particular sample that we had. We'd like to have seen that more accurate, as it has been with other Samsung TVs. However, overall, when you take into account the design, the features, the input lag, the performance with both SDR and HDR content, we're more than happy to award the Samsung UE55 KS8000 a highly recommended AV Forums badge. Thanks for watching.